Welcome to my channel. Today, I have a question for you. Do you want English to be your thinking language, not just your speaking language? Imagine waking up in the morning, and before you even say a word, your brain is already talking to you in English. You open your eyes and you're thinking, it's a beautiful day. You walk to the kitchen and your mind says, I need some tea. No translating. No stopping, just pure English thoughts. Sounds impossible? It's not. In fact, your brain is already built to do this. The problem is we never train it the right way. Most learners only practice speaking when they have to talk to someone. They never practice the most important part. What happens inside their mind when no one is listening? That is where the real fluency begins. Right now, maybe your brain is like a switch. Most of the time, it's set to your native language. And only when you need English, you try to switch it on. But that switch feels heavy, slow. Sometimes it doesn't even move. I'm going to show you how to make English your brain's default mode, so you don't need to switch at all. And here's the best part. You don't have to live in an English-speaking country. You don't need expensive classes. You don't even need hours of free time. What you need is the right method, the right habits, and a little bit of daily training. So stay with me, because over the next few chapters, I'm going to give you the exact steps to convince your brain to think in English, naturally, automatically, and without fear. If you follow these steps, one day soon you'll realize something amazing. You've been thinking in English for hours, and you didn't even notice. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Why thinking in English feels hard if you're learning English. You already know this feeling. You can understand many words. You can write a nice sentence. You can read a story and understand the meaning. But when it's time to speak, your mind becomes quiet. You open your mouth, but the words don't come fast. Sometimes you say nothing. Sometimes you speak, but it feels slow and heavy. Why does this happen? The reason is simple. Inside your head, your brain is still using your native language as its home base. Every time you want to say something in English, your brain first makes the sentence in your own language. Then, it tries to translate it into English. This is like walking a long road before you can even start talking. By the time the sentence is ready, the moment has passed. You feel shy. You feel stuck. I want you to imagine something. Imagine your brain as a city. In this city, your native language is the big, wide highway. It's fast. It's smooth. You can drive there without thinking. English, right now, is just a small side road. It's narrow. It has a few bumps. Sometimes there's even a dead end. Of course, when your brain needs to move quickly, it chooses the highway, your native language, because it's easier and faster. This is not your fault. It is not because you are bad at English. It is not because you are not smart. It is because your brain has been driving on that highway for many years. English is still new, so it doesn't feel natural yet. But here's the good news. Roads can be changed. The small side road can be made bigger, smoother, and faster until one day, it becomes the new highway. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, I met a student named Maria. She was amazing at English grammar. She could write essays with no mistakes. Her vocabulary was big. She could pass any written test. But when she tried to speak, she froze. I asked her to introduce herself in English. She smiled, looked at the floor, and after a few seconds, said, "My name is Maria." She spoke each word slowly, like she was pulling them from a heavy box. I asked her what happened. She said, "I know the words in my language, but I need to translate every sentence before I speak. It's too slow. I feel stupid." Maria was not stupid. She was smart. But her brain was still thinking in Spanish, and that was the problem. She was doing extra work every time she spoke, first making the sentence in Spanish, then translating to English. It was like trying to run a race with heavy weights on your legs. You can still run, but it will be slow and tiring. This is the truth many learners don't hear. Thinking in English is not about knowing more words or more grammar. It is about changing the habit of your brain. Your brain loves comfort. It loves to use the old roads. And your native language road is the most comfortable one. But if you want to be fluent, you must slowly train your brain to take the English road every time. Even the best learners face this problem. I have taught students with years of English study who still translate in their heads. I have met business people, travelers, and even teachers who feel nervous speaking because their brain won't think directly in English. If this is you, you are not alone. This is a normal step in learning, and it can be fixed. Here is the truth that should make you feel better. Your brain is not stuck forever. It is not closed. It can change at any age. Scientists call this neuroplasticity, but we can call it something simple. Brain training. The more you use English inside your head, the more natural it becomes. One day, without even trying, your brain will choose the English road first. And when that happens, speaking becomes much faster, easier, and more confident. So, in this chapter, I want you to remember two things. First, you are not bad at English if you can't think in English yet. You just need more mental practice. Second, this is not about talent. This is about habit. You don't have to be a genius to think in English. You only have to train your brain, step by step, until English feels like home. In the next chapter, I will show you how to break the translation habit, so your brain stops wasting time moving between two languages. But before we go there, think about your own language highway. Right now, which road is bigger? Which road is faster? If it's still your native language, don't worry. We're going to start building your English highway together, starting now. Chapter 2. Breaking the translation habit. If you want to think in English, the first big wall you must break is the translation habit. This habit is when your brain hears something in English, changes it into your native language to understand, then changes it back into English when you want to speak. At first, this feels safe. It feels like you're helping yourself. But in reality, this is what makes speaking slow, stressful, and sometimes impossible. Translation in your head is like trying to walk with a heavy bag on your shoulders. Every time you want to speak, you must stop, open the bag, take something out, then keep moving. Imagine if you did this for every step. You would never walk fast. This is why some learners know thousands of English words, but still feel stuck when speaking. Let's try something together right now. Look around you. I want you to silently name 5 things you can see, but only in English. No translating. No thinking of the word in your native language first. If you see a table, think table. If you see a cup, think cup. If you see a window, think window. Do this quickly. Don't stop to check if it's correct. Just name them in English in your mind. Did you do it? That simple activity is one way to break the translation habit. Why? Because you told your brain, I don't need to go through my native language first. I can go straight to English. And the more you do this, the easier it becomes. Now let's talk about something very important, the input-output loop. Your brain works in patterns. The language you use for input, what you listen to, read, or watch, becomes the language you use for output, what you speak and think. If most of your input is in your native language, your output will also be in your native language. even when you want to use English. Think of your brain like a water bottle. If you keep filling it with orange juice, you can't pour out water. If you keep filling your brain with native language input, you can't pour out English thoughts. So if you want to think in English, you must give your brain English input every day. Music, videos, stories, conversations, even small things like your phone menu or shopping list. I know what you might be thinking, but I can't understand everything in English. That's okay. You don't need to understand 100%. Even if you understand 50%, your brain is still getting used to the sounds, the structure, and the rhythm of English. And slowly, it starts to prefer English when you think. Now, I want you to imagine something. Imagine you are at a cafe with a friend. You order your drink in English without thinking about each word. Your friend says something, and you answer immediately. No translation, no long pause, no stress. You're smiling, your friend is smiling, and the conversation feels light and natural. That is the freedom of speaking without switching languages in your head. It's not just faster, it feels alive. When you break the translation habit, something magical happens. Your brain becomes free to focus on ideas, not grammar rules. You stop worrying about perfect sentences and start enjoying real communication. You stop feeling like a student, and you start feeling like a person who lives in English. But here's the truth. Breaking this habit takes daily effort. At first, you will catch yourself translating. That's normal. When you notice it, don't be angry with yourself. Just gently push your brain to use English directly. Over time, you will notice you translate less and less until one day you realize you haven't translated for hours. So here's a small challenge for you today. For the next 2 hours, whatever you see, think about it in English. If you see a bus, think bus. If you hear music, think music. If you feel hungry, think I'm hungry. It's okay if it's simple. The important thing is no native language allowed in your thoughts. This is the first real step to convincing your brain that English is safe, fast, and easy. And in the next chapter, we'll take it even further. I'll show you how to create full English immersion in your daily life, even if you never leave your country. That's when your brain starts to switch fully into English mode and stay there. Chapter 3. Immersion without moving abroad. A lot of learners believe they can only think in English if they move to an English-speaking country. Maybe you've thought the same. If I lived in America or England, I would be fluent in no time. But here's the truth. There are people who live in English-speaking countries for years and still don't think in English because they stay inside their native language bubble. And there are people who have never left their own country, yet think, speak, and even dream in English. So, the real question is not where you live. It's what you do every day. Immersion is not a place. Immersion is a habit, and you can create it anywhere, starting right now. Let's start with the small things, because small things done daily make a huge difference. First, change your phone language to English. This may feel strange at first, but it forces your brain to see English words every time you use your phone. You'll start learning naturally, without studying. Next, fill your ears with English. Make a playlist of English songs you enjoy or podcasts on topics you like. Play them while you cook, clean, travel, or exercise. Even if you don't understand everything, your brain is getting used to the sounds, the flow, and the natural speed of English. Over time, this becomes your brain's background music. Now let's go one step further. Narrate your actions in English. This means describing in your head or out loud what you're doing as you do it. For example, when you wake up, You can think, I'm getting out of bed. I'm brushing my teeth. I'm making tea. At first, your sentences might be short and simple, but the more you do it, the more complex your sentences will become without you even trying. This is one of the most powerful exercises for building the English thinking habit. Here's your spike moment, a mini challenge. For the next 2 hours, don't let a single thought be in your native language. Not one. Every thought must be in English. If you don't know the perfect word, use a simple one you do know. If you don't know how to say it at all, change the sentence to something you can say. For example, if you don't know how to say, sunlight is coming through the window, you can say the sun is in my room. The key is no switching back to your native language. But immersion is not just in your head, it's also in your environment. You can make your home speak English to you. Use post-it notes and stick them to objects with their English names: mirror, door, fridge, remote. Every time you see them, your brain connects the English word directly to the object without translation. Add English to your walls and desk. You can write short motivational sentences in English and put them where you'll see them often. For example, I can do this. English is my language. One step every day. These little messages keep your brain connected to English all day long. You can even give English names to places in your home. Instead of saying kitchen in your native language, always think or say kitchen. Instead of bedroom, always say bedroom. When you tell someone you're going to the bathroom, say it in English in your head. Another tip: make English your background noise. You don't need to sit and listen carefully every time. Just having English playing softly in the background, a podcast, an audiobook, or even a TV show, keeps your brain familiar with the rhythm of the language. It's like living in a house where English is always in the air. The point is to create an environment where English is not just something you study for 1 hour. It's something you live with from morning to night. When English is around you all the time, your brain stops seeing it as a foreign language and starts accepting it as a normal part of your world. And when your brain accepts English as normal, it begins to use it automatically, not just when you speak, but also when you think. That's the magic of immersion. You're not forcing yourself to think in English. You're building a life where English is everywhere. So your brain has no choice but to adapt. So remember, you don't need to buy a plane ticket to think in English. You just need to build an English world inside your own world. Make it your phone, your music, your thoughts, your walls, your background noise. Make it so normal that your brain forgets the switch between languages and just stays in English mode. In the next chapter, we'll go even deeper. I'll show you how to train your inner voice so that every conversation you have with yourself inside your head is in English. That's when fluency really starts to grow fast. Chapter 4. Training your inner voice. If you really want to think in English, you have to understand one important truth. Your inner voice is the real boss of your brain language. Your inner voice is that quiet conversation you have with yourself all day long. It's the voice that says, I'm hungry, when you feel like eating. It's the voice that reminds you, don't forget your keys. It's the voice that tells you what you're feeling, what you're doing, and what you want to do next. Now here's the thing. If your inner voice is speaking in your native language, then your brain will always prefer your native language. But if you can reprogram this voice to speak in English, something amazing happens. Your brain will automatically start thinking in English without you even trying. The good news? You don't need special talent to change your inner voice. You can train it. And like any training, You start small, then grow bigger. First, start with short, simple sentences in your head. Keep them very basic so you can say them instantly. For example, I'm eating. It's raining. I'm happy. I'm tired. The goal is not to impress anyone with your grammar. The goal is to get your brain comfortable speaking English to itself. Once this feels easy, move to slightly longer thoughts. For example, I'm feeling tired, but I'm excited for dinner. Or, it's raining today, so I will take my umbrella. The more you do this, the more natural it will feel. Here's your spike moment. Let's do a talk to yourself exercise right now. Wherever you are, I want you to say in your head how you're feeling in English. If you're sitting, you might think, I'm sitting in my chair. I feel comfortable. I'm learning English right now. If you're hungry, you might think, I'm a little hungry. I think I will eat after this video. This is not just an exercise. This is how you rewire your brain to use English all day long. You can even talk to yourself about what you see and what you're planning to do. For example, the sun is bright today. I will go for a walk later. Or, I hear the sound of traffic. It's busy outside. These little sentences are like drops of water filling a cup. One day, without realizing it, the cup will overflow, and you'll be thinking in English without effort. Let me share a story with you. A few years ago, I met a learner named Omar. He had been studying English for years, but he always said, I can't think in English. I translate everything in my head. I gave him one challenge. For 1 month, he had to narrate his life in English in his head as much as possible. At first, he said it was hard. He could only do it for a few minutes before switching back to his native language. But he didn't stop. He started with very small sentences. I'm walking. I'm opening the door. I'm eating lunch. Then he grew to longer sentences. I'm walking to the bus stop because I have to go to work. By the second week, he was able to do it for 10 to 15 minutes at a time. By the end of the first month, he realized something. He was thinking in English without noticing. 3 months later, he told me, I don't translate anymore. My inner voice speaks English now. His speaking speed had doubled, and his confidence had grown like never before. That's the power of training your inner voice. You're not just learning English words. You're making English the first language your brain uses to think. This changes everything. Your sentences come faster. You understand people more easily. You even start to dream in English. Here's a small tip to make this easier. Connect your inner voice training to daily routines. Every time you do something you do every day, brushing your teeth, making coffee, walking to the bus, use that moment to talk to yourself in English. This way, it becomes a habit, not just something you remember when you have time. The more you do this, the stronger your English voice becomes. And when your inner voice is in English, your speaking will follow naturally. You won't have to fight your brain to stay in English. It will just happen. In the next chapter, we'll talk about something that stops many learners from thinking in English: the fear of making mistakes. I'll show you how to silence that fear so your brain can keep practicing without getting stuck. Chapter 5. Handling mistakes inside your head. One of the biggest reasons learners stop thinking in English is fear. The fear of making mistakes. This fear is powerful. It can freeze your mouth when speaking, and it can even freeze your thoughts when you try to think in English. Many learners tell me, I don't want to think in English if I can't do it perfectly. But here's the truth. If you wait until your English is perfect to start thinking in English, you will never start. Your thoughts are private. Nobody can hear them. Nobody can judge them. This means your mind is the safest place to practice English. You can make 100 mistakes inside your head, and not a single person will know. That's why the rule for thinking in English is simple. Fluency first, perfection later. Let's be clear, perfection is not the goal right now. When you think in English, your goal is speed, comfort, and habit. You want your brain to get used to using English words automatically, even if the grammar is not perfect yet. Over time, your brain will naturally correct itself as it hears and reads more English. But if you stop yourself every time you're unsure about grammar, you will break the flow of your thoughts, and that's worse than a small mistake. Think of it like learning to ride a bicycle. When you start, you don't focus on riding perfectly straight or going fast. You just try to keep moving without falling. You make mistakes, you wobble, but you keep going. And the more you ride, the better your balance becomes. Thinking in English works the same way. Here's your spike moment, a fun game. Right now, I want you to say a full sentence in your head in English. It doesn't matter if it's perfect. It doesn't matter if it's short or long. Just say it in English. Ready? Go. Done? Congratulations. You just thought in English. That's the goal. It's not about getting everything correct. It's about building the habit of using English inside your mind. When you do this daily, your brain begins to prefer English for certain ideas. And when that happens, your thinking becomes faster and more natural. But it only happens if you give yourself permission to be imperfect at first. Let me tell you a story. I once had a student named Hannah. She was very shy when speaking English because she worried about every little grammar mistake. Even when she tried to think in English, she would stop and fix her sentence before moving on. It was like she had a red pen in her brain, correcting everything before she could finish the thought. I told Hannah to remove that red pen. I gave her this challenge. For 1 week, I want you to think in English every day for 10 minutes, but you are not allowed to correct yourself inside your head. If a sentence is wrong, let it be wrong. Just keep going. At first, she said it felt strange. Her thoughts didn't sound clean, but by the end of the week, something changed. She could think faster. Her sentences flowed more easily. And here's the magic part. Even though she wasn't correcting herself, her grammar improved naturally because she was using English more often. That's the secret. Your brain learns best when it's free. If you trap it with fear and correction, it slows down. But if you let it move, it finds its own way to improve. So here's my advice when you think in English. Treat mistakes like clouds in the sky. You can notice them, but you don't have to chase them. Just let them pass and keep going. If you do this, you will discover something powerful. The more you think in English without fear, the more confident you will feel when you speak. You'll stop worrying about every word and start enjoying the conversation, even if it's just a conversation with yourself inside your mind. In the next chapter, we'll put everything together. I'll show you how to lock your brain into English mode so you don't just think in English sometimes. You live in English every day. Chapter 6. Locking the brain in English mode. Now that you've learned how to think in English, it's time for the most important part, keeping it that way. You see, switching your brain to English isn't like flipping a light switch and leaving it forever, at least not at first. It's more like training a muscle. If you stop using it, it weakens. If you keep exercising it, it grows stronger until it becomes second nature. Think about it. When you learned to ride a bicycle, you needed to focus on every movement. But after enough practice, you could ride while talking to a friend, looking at the scenery, or even carrying a bag of groceries. That's what we want for your English. Not something you have to fight for, but something that just happens. So, How do we lock your brain into English mode so it doesn't keep switching back to your native language? Let's talk about 3 big strategies: the 24-hour challenge, maintenance tricks, and the mindset shift that will keep your English brain alive for years to come. The 24-hour challenge, here's the big one. The test that will show you how ready you are. For 1 full day, yes, 24 hours, think only in English. That means from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, every thought, every plan, every small comment in your head will be in English. When you're brushing your teeth, think, I'm brushing my teeth now. The water is cold. When you're at work, think, I need to send this email. My boss will like this report. When you're cooking, think, I'm chopping onions. My eyes are watering. You might be thinking, but what if I don't know a word? Easy, describe it another way. If you don't know the word onions, think I'm cutting round vegetables that make my eyes cry. This forces your brain to stay in English, no matter what. The first few hours might feel strange. You'll catch your mind trying to switch back. But the longer you stay in English, the easier it gets. By the end of the day, you'll be shocked at how natural it feels. And here's the best part. Once you do this challenge even once, your brain will remember it's possible. Maintenance tricks. Now, after the challenge, you need to keep your English brain active. Here are some simple but powerful tricks. Keep a thought journal in English every night before you sleep. Write down 5 to 10 sentences about your day in English. Don't overthink grammar. Just focus on describing your day. Over time, you'll find your thoughts becoming more automatic. Talk aloud to objects. Yes, it sounds funny, but it works. When you're alone, pick something in your room, your cup, your chair, your shoes, and speak to it in English. You're my favorite mug. You keep my tea warm. This keeps your speaking muscles active along with your thinking muscles. Daydream in English when your mind wanders, on the bus, in the shower, before sleep. Make sure your daydreams are in English. Imagine conversations, future plans, or even funny scenarios, but keep them all in English words. Mix English with your environment. Keep your phone in English. Label items in your home. Put English quotes on your wall. The more English you see, the more your brain accepts it as the default language. The emotional peak, there will come a magical moment. And I promise you, if you stay consistent, it will happen. You'll be walking somewhere, maybe thinking about what to eat for dinner, and suddenly you'll realize, I've been thinking in English for hours without even trying. It's like you've unlocked a new operating system in your brain. You didn't have to force it. You didn't have to remind yourself. It just happened naturally. That's the moment you'll know English is no longer just something you study. It's part of you. The mindset shift, the final key to locking your brain in English mode, is understanding this truth. This is not a talent. This is a trained skill. You don't need to be good at languages or born with a gift. You just need to keep going. Even if some days you slip back into your native language, don't panic. Just catch yourself and switch back. Think of it like a game. How fast can you get back into English mode? Fluency doesn't belong to the smartest person. It belongs to the most persistent person. If you keep showing up for your brain every day, even in small ways, English will stop being something you do and become something you are. You've made it through all the chapters, and now you have the tools. But tools are only useful if you pick them up and use them. So here's your mission. Do the 24-hour challenge. Keep your thought journal. Speak to your coffee mug. Daydream in English. And watch your brain become an English brain, not someday, but starting now. Because the real magic of language learning isn't in the grammar books or the vocabulary lists. It's in the moment you realize your thoughts, your dreams, and your life are flowing in a new language. And you didn't even notice the switch. If you want, I can now write the powerful closing call to action that ties this whole thinking in English script together and pushes viewers to take action immediately. That would make this final chapter hit even harder. Would you like me to do that next? Call to action after chapter 6. If this video helped you start thinking in English, give it a like right now. It tells me you want more lessons like this. And if you're ready to make English your brain's first language, drop a comment below saying, "I'm thinking now." I'll personally reply and cheer you on in your journey. And don't forget to subscribe for more simple, real English lessons that don't just teach grammar, but train your mind, your voice, and your confidence. Because once your brain starts thinking in English, you don't just learn a language, your whole world changes. Tomorrow, you could wake up and think your very first thought of the day in English. Let's make that happen together.